Hey, what's going on there, seniors and parents? What a day today is. This is an opportunity for us to celebrate, honestly, both of you. And I'll talk to both of you at various points of this. But for those of you maybe I haven't met, my name's Josh. I'm our student pastor here at Mission. And for many of you students, I've had the opportunity to get to know you over the last 4 years. Some of you I met when you were just about to begin your freshman year of high school. And so I've literally watched you grow up from ninth graders through right now as you've just graduated high school. For many of you parents, I've had the opportunity to get to know you similarly over the past few years and been in contact as we've shared stories of the way that God's working and moving inside your student's life. And then I also know for some of you parents, maybe we've never met before, that your high schooler got plugged in here because they were invited by a friend or they knew a family that came to church here. And so for you, I just want to say, hey, it's great to meet you. And regardless, for all of you parents, I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Every single one of you have invested so much in your student to get them to the point that they are today. And so we want the next few moments to be a celebration, not just of your student, but also of you and for what you've done to serve and invest and lead them through the ups as well as a parent, some of the more difficult challenges that have come up over the course of the last 18 years, I'm sure. Seniors, who would have thought that when you began school back in August, that your senior year would end the way that it did? Who would have thought, for that matter, that when you began school, as a kindergartner, first grade student, that your culmination of education was going to be in the midst of a global pandemic? I mean, who could have thought? Who could have imagined? But right, this is where we are. In fact, even just 3 or 4 months ago, we were planning for this experience to be happening right here in this building, for us to have the opportunity for you as seniors to gather in here, for you as parents to be present here with family members, and for this to be an opportunity for us to all together collectively celebrate your lives and what you've done. But alas, I think so many things have changed. And so your graduation has looked different than what you thought. You've heard probably more times than what you would like the word virtual, right? You've heard of virtual graduations. Perhaps you've heard of virtual open houses. Perhaps you've dealt with virtual small groups and you've dealt with church online. And so here we are again, having a virtual senior celebration. And so seniors, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. For making the choice to be a part of Mission Students. Whether for you that's just been the last year as you've journeyed through Mission Students only as a senior, or for some of you it's been since your freshman or sophomore years. But seriously, from me and from our team, thank you for making the choice to be plugged in and to engage and to let Jesus show up and shape and form you. As we make this transitional moment, I just want to speak for a moment to you as seniors, and then I'll talk to you as parents in just a moment. Seniors, you're right now at a crossroads. You're at a crossroads. Everything in your life is about to change. That up until this moment, you've gradually been getting greater and greater independence, but really you've still had your parents and others who've been largely responsible for you. And over the course of the next few months, and especially the next few years, that's really going to continue to shift. That you're at a crossroads in terms of how you engage, first of all, with schooling. That you may have not always enjoyed it at times, but you had a parent who you could count on to make sure that you got to school and were engaged on a day-to-day basis. That's going to begin to evolve and change. That you're going to have more choice, more freedom in how you engage with schooling. That some of you, you're going to go away to college and you're going to be living a few hours away from home. And you're going to have a little bit less of mom and dad looking over your shoulder. And so you're going to get to choose the choices and the direction that your life heads. Previously, maybe for many of you as seniors, you showed up here to Mission Church because your parents largely influenced that it was an expectation in your family that you came here on Sunday mornings, or that you engaged here on Sunday nights, or back when we met on Wednesday nights, even at Lake Park. That was just part of the household rules. And again, you're at a crossroads right now where all that's going to begin to change. That over the course of the next few months, you're going to have a different experience with church. That no longer will you have a student ministry that's specifically designed to engage you. No longer are your small group leaders going to just be available at any time to drop everything and show up to you. That doesn't mean that they're not going to continue to be around for you to text or to call, but that relationship's going to change. And similarly, the expectations that your parents have, while they might still exist, are going to change in the way that you're going to be able to live them out with a little bit more freedom. And so I just want to speak to you as we look at this moment in time, at this crossroads that you're at, in terms of what choices you have for what's ahead. And as I was thinking about this and preparing for today, I was thinking about another guy, a guy by the name of Paul, who similarly had invested so much in a young protege of his named Timothy. And that Paul had known Timothy since he was a young man, similar to how I and our small group leaders have known many of you since you were young men and young women. And he invested so much in Timothy to develop him as a follower of Jesus and as a leader. And it got to this point where later on Paul knew at the end of his life that he was about to change in his relationship with Timothy, because he knew that he was weeks, if not months, away from being executed for his faith in Jesus. And so he knew as he's writing to Timothy that these are some of the final words that he was going to say to him. And this is what he writes, and these words I would speak over to you even still today. Paul says this starting in 2 Timothy 1, verse 3. He says, Timothy, you're constantly in my prayers. I just want to say for a moment, seniors, you are going to continue to be in my prayers and in your small group leaders' prayers. That just because we don't see you here on Sunday nights, just because our relationship changes, even though there's distance, just as there was distance between Paul and Timothy, you're going to continue to be present in our prayers. He says, you're constantly in my prayers. And then he continues in verse 5. He says, what strikes me most is how natural and sincere your faith is. I'm convinced that the same faith that dwelt in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice abides in you as well. And again, I just want to affirm that in you, students, that I have seen your faith grow. That for each of you, I've seen different moments of where this has shown up. I've seen vulnerability in small group discussions. I've seen honesty and authenticity in community. I've seen you show up for experiences like Blast, your hands raised in worship at Silver Birch. I've seen the way that you volunteered your time. Some of you volunteering in kids, others of you volunteering in tech, others of you volunteering to lead worship in front of your peers. And I've seen the faith that your parents have instilled in you continue to grow and flourish. That's what Paul is saying here to Timothy. That's what I've seen in you. He continues in verse 6. He says, this is why I write to you, though, to remind you to stir up the gift of God that was conveyed to you when I laid my hands on you. And even if the embers cool, fan them again and keep them ablaze. Now, here's the thing. Every single one of us, we go through ups and down seasons with our faith where perhaps that red hot, white hot faith begins to cool. As some of you have experienced this, you've went to Blast, you've went to Silver Birch, and you've come back, you've had these incredible experiences, and you feel like you can hear Jesus speak, and he's guiding your life in a way that you've never experienced previously. But then a few weeks or a few months removed from that, you find the embers starting to cool. And so my encouragement to you as you head into this next season where you're going to have greater choice in how you engage your faith or whether you engage your faith is, would you continue to fan into flames? Would you not let those embers cool? That as you have this choice to choose whether or not on Sundays you're going to get up and engage with church or you're going to choose to sleep in. Or you're going to have the choice whether to be surrounded by a Christ-centered community or whether you're just going to surround yourself with people who encourage you to do whatever feels good or whatever sounds like it's fun. The choice is up to you. My encouragement is, will you continue to fan into flame those embers rather than to let them cool? And I want to give you 4 tips, and I would encourage you to come back that when you feel like your faith starts to wane, when you feel like you can't hear the voice of the Lord like you used to previously, when you find yourself feeling like you're stuck, or you feel like you're asking questions related to God that maybe you've never asked before in your life, when you're in those moments, come back to these 4 things. And my encouragement is that in these 4 things, you'll find your embers begin to catch fire again. You'll begin to experience Jesus in greater ways inside of you. 2 of these are things that I've seen you do already. 2 of these are things that I hope that you'll continue to do as you leave this place. The first is this. Listen to your parents. Listen to your parents. That as you enter into this new season where, again, you're going to have greater choice and greater options, that for some of you, you're going to have distance from maybe for the first time ever between you and your parents. That there's going to be a natural tendency for you to have people around you who say things to you that really they don't know. That you're going to surround yourself with a lot of people who are 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're going to say some things that may sound different than what your parents have told you. And my encouragement is that you would use your parents as a filter for everything that you see and experience around you as you enter into this next season of life. Listen to your parents. And trust me on this, your parents know more than what you think they do. And some of you right now, you're thinking, Josh, you don't know my parents. And that may be the case. But here's what I do know about your parents, is that they love you. And they have your best interests in their heart and mind. And that you're in this moment right here today because they cared enough to get you to this point. Listen to your parents. That whether you're going to community college or whether you're in college in another state, whether you're using a gap year, that your parents have vital wisdom. Listen to them. Number 2, continue to learn from someone older. One of the greatest gifts that we give you right here at Mission Church is a small group leader. And the goal of that small group leader isn't somebody who's to take the place of your parent, but rather to partner with your parent to help your faith grow and flourish to the best it can possibly be. Now, as you exit Mission students and as you begin your next season of life, your relationship with your small group leader will likely change. Your small group leader may not be around as much as they previously were, have the same availability. Find someone older and wiser to continue to learn from. My encouragement is that you find that person and you meet with them weekly. I remember for me, my freshman year of college, being blessed with the gift of a mentor named Nathan. His nickname was Toady. And so Toady was someone who was in his mid-20s, graduated from college, was in his first job, was engaged, and he was somebody who I found myself coming to on a weekly basis to ask questions around silly stuff, like whether or not I should date a girl or whether or not I should hang out with certain friends or engage in certain activities. Some was really superficial. Other stuff was deeper, harder questions as I wrestled with like philosophical things related to life. But he was someone who I came to again and again and again as I journeyed through my college years. I want to encourage you, find someone like my friend Toady. Someone who's older, someone who's wiser, someone who's a little bit further along the lines, similar to how you had your small group leader, and continue to learn from them. And number 3, I want to encourage you to look for someone to invest in. Look for someone to invest in. Paul continues this in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2. He says, whatever you heard me teach before other witnesses, I want you to pass along to other people who can teach others. What Paul is saying is that everything I did for you, Timothy, I want you to in turn do for others. And so I want you to think for a moment everything that's been done for you by your parents, by your small group leaders, perhaps by your church community. What would it look like for you to do the same for someone else in your life? Look for someone to invest in. It could be someone as you're starting in your college years, somebody who's a middle schooler or a high school student. Perhaps it's somebody who you're going to notice right away on the first day of school who looks a little bit lonely or looks a little bit socially awkward, looks like they're struggling. Look for someone to invest in. Here's what I know, is that when we look, we find. That when we look, we find around us, every single one of us, no matter where you're going, if you're staying here locally and going to community college, you're taking a gap year, you're going to college out of state, here's what I guarantee you, that there's going to be someone around you that God's put in your path, that if you look for them, you'll find for you to invest in. And what's been given to you, give freely to others. And then fourth and finally, my encouragement to you is link up with a local church. Link up with a local church. And I've seen this again and again and again as I've seen students grow and develop, that what's going to happen is that you're going to go away to college and there's going to be a couple different things you're going to go through. That one of those things might be that you're going to try to find a church there that's just like the church that you have here. And let me tell you right now, that just won't happen. It won't happen. It's not because Mission Church is so incredibly unique that you could never find another church like this, although that might be the case. I love our church here. But more than likely, you're just not going to find a church because every church is different. And so resist the urge to write off engaging in a local church because it's not this church. Now, some of you, that's going to be your natural tendency. Others of you, you're going to feel like, I finally have freedom. I finally have choice. I'm going to just take the first couple weeks off from being in my Sunday routine, and disengage from church, and then you're going to find yourself your senior year of college wondering, how did 4 years go by and I never got plugged in at church? Link up to a local church. If you stay here in the area, we would love for you to remain connected here at Mission. But if you're going a little bit further out of the area, rather than feeling like your faith can only stay connected here, instead I want to tell you, whether you're in Bloomington Normal or you're over in DeKalb or you're in a different state, find a local church that you can get plugged into. And myself and your small group leaders, we would love to help you find a local church, to the point that we will come and spend a Sunday with you to go to a church and help you find a place where you can get connected. And so just to recap, I want to encourage you to continue to listen to your parents, to continue to learn from someone older, and then for you to look to invest in someone else. And fourth and finally, for you to link up to a local church. We have loved having the opportunity to walk with you, whether it's been for the last 4 years, 6 years. Some of you started here back when you were in Mission Kids. Others of you, it's been the last year. And regardless whether it's been 365 days that you've walked with us, or it's been literally thousands, it's been our joy and honor to watch you grow as you've found and followed after Jesus. We're going to give you a gift later on today, that in the same way as Paul neared the end of his life, as he knew his relationship with Timothy was about to change, he took pen to paper. And while, if Paul was here today, he might have a YouTube channel rather than writing letters, we do think that there's something sacred about pen to paper. And so that's what you're going to get today, that you're going to have the opportunity to come here to Mission, and we're going to have a gift for you. It's been put together. And inside, what you're going to find is some handwritten notes. Some of those notes are going to come from myself, John, our co-founding pastor here at Mission. You're going to find inside, for some of you, notes from your small group leader or from your parents. And you're going to find an opportunity when you get to the end of that, though, for you to assess everything that's been invested in you from your parents and from your small group leaders and from our church, and then for you to start to create a plan. So how are you going to begin to put into practice these things that I've asked for you to continue to live out? And so I want to encourage you, when you receive that gift, go through, read through it, reflect, laugh. Some of you, it's going to be crying. Good tears, not bad tears. But after you've done that, when you get to the back, carve out some space this week and do the work. Create a plan for how God's going to take and continue the work that he's begun here on beyond this season. And we're going to continue, myself and your small group leaders and your parents, we're going to continue to be here cheering you on every step of the way. Because we believe that what God has begun in you today, he wants to continue on to completion tomorrow and beyond. And so as we close, I just want to take a moment to pray for you. Pray for you, seniors, and also pray for you, parents, as we enter into this new season together, arms linked, expectant for what God is going to do in us and through us. Let's pray. God, thank you so much, first and foremost, for these parents who've invested so much to lead and guide their student to this place where they're graduating and they're entering this new phase and this new season of life. I pray that right now that they would feel a sense of joy and accomplishment at what you've done in them and through them to get their student to this point. I also pray that we would be a community that continues to walk with them and celebrate them as this season changes and as they enter into a new season of what parenting looks like. God, I pray for our seniors, that as they exit Mission students and as they begin this new journey, that God, you would go before them, that you would give them ears to continue to listen to their parents and learn from others in their life who are wiser. God, would you give them eyes to look around and see the ones that you've placed before them, who they can invest themselves in, that they can take what's been given to them and in turn give that to others. And God, would you give them a heart to continue to link up and be connected with a local church, where they can grow and where they can develop, where they can continue to hear you speak and take next steps as they find and follow after you. And would we continue to be a place, a foundational cornerstone for them to come back to return to again and again in the months, years ahead. Lord, thank you for the honor and joy it's been to see these students both literally and spiritually grow up before our eyes. And would you take what you've begun in them and continue it on? Would you multiply their lives into the lives of others around them and use them to make a difference in the world? For them to be movement makers in their dorm rooms, in their colleges, in their parents' basements, or wherever life would lead them. I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.